Maybe they give him a rest. I don't know. What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fi here. We're going to be talking through this little 6-game slate. It's a really interesting 6-gamer, and I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of news that breaks that is going to change the slate quite a bit. So your lineup builds right now may not look like what they're going to look like because we have Anthony Edwards questionable. We have Jared Vanderbilt questionable. We have a bunch of Raptors questionable, or the most important Raptors questionable, and Anunoby and obviously Van Vliet. And that's going to basically determine the slate in terms of what we're going to do for value, for plays, and all that stuff. But for right now, here's what I've got. Look, wow, that's weird. It's weird. I just have a double screen here. Make sure you guys let me know if you guys can hear me and everything's all good because I just had a weird little pop up for some reason. Somebody else signed in as me, or I don't know how it happened, but anyway. Yeah, let me know. Let me know if you guys can hear me. So we'll get to it. Right now, currently, I'll just go through like the guys who I'm using, and I think you're going to have to play the waiting game a little bit, and it sucks because it's like the games are only an hour apart except for the Laker game, and you're going to probably want that Toronto news. You're going to want the news in Minnesota, obviously. So I have interest in this first game, but I'm probably going to be mostly watching it go by. I do like Cade on FanDuel especially, but I like him on both sides. I have a little bit of interest in Jeremy Grant, even though it feels really gross. I have a little bit of interest in Saddiq Bey, a little bit of interest in Isaiah Stewart, which basically means that I'm probably not going to play a ton of any of them because I do want that news in Toronto. Just the plays are going to be so strong if those guys are out. Now, if they're not, you still have strong plays in the later games. I do like Gafford. I'm a little concerned about maybe the minutes that people think he's going to play. I think 24 is about right. He's a good producer, good matchup. But it's just he's too cheap. So I think you're going to want to play some Gafford. I think you're also going to want to play some KCP, which feels kind of nasty. And then you look at his usage rate, which has actually surprisingly been higher than what we've seen in the past from him. You know, only 18% in the last game, 18% the game before. That's still better than what we used to see from KCP. He had a 25% usage rate in the game against Indiana, and he had a monster game. He's put up 36 and 40 in 2 out of his last 4. I think he's a strong play. I don't love the ownership, but again, we're looking for value. The problem is the value is going to be so much greater if we wait a little bit longer, and that's probably what we want to do. Same thing with Hachimura, Ish Smith, Neto, Kispert, Abdia. All of these guys make sense in some form to mix in. It's just, do we really want to do that when we might have Toronto in the same situation they were last night, where probably 3 guys are going to crush at least, especially if that game stays close. So I really think that you're going to want to wait here, unfortunately, and probably forego some of these good plays. The ones I won't be foregoing are some Gafford, some Kuzma, and some KCP. I probably will sprinkle the other guys in, but I just don't feel like it's right. I think we want to wait and play the waiting game because we really do want that Toronto, and we want the lineup too. I mean, I think that Toronto is going to, obviously, if Anunoby and Van Vliet are out, we would just run back the same thing, and the game probably won't be a 40-point blowout because it doesn't happen all that often, although Brooklyn is god-awful. Without, of course, their big 3. Atlanta, Boston, I think that this game has a little more interest to me than I initially thought. Gallinari, Bogdanovich, and Herter being my favorite. Herter being the weird one that's off the board, but I do think there is some viability in playing him here. Tough defensive matchup. Could end up with some open looks. And I mentioned that earlier on the show. I don't love the play, but it's just a guy we can keep. And then we'll see what happens with the Toronto news and the Minnesota news by the time that game starts. But those are guys I'm mixing in. I don't mind Trey. I don't think it's obviously not a great matchup. I don't know if we get the ceiling from him. He's not my favorite spend up. I do love Jalen and Jason Tatum in this matchup, and they're a little pricey on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, oh boy, are they easy to get in. And you're gonna probably want one of those guys in a good portion of your lineups. I don't mind Marcus Smart, Al Horford, or Williams either, but those are the guys who I'm playing are mostly going to be Brown and Tatum. On the Brooklyn side of things, we have to know about Cam Thomas and Andre Drummond. Yet more news. We need a starting lineup because if Drummond's out and for some reason they start somebody who's not even projected to play right now, like Sharp or who knows about Aldridge on a back-to-back. So I would take a shot on Sharp. I would take a shot on, and why wouldn't they mix it up a little bit after how badly they got beaten last night? So I would take a shot on him. And I would obviously take a shot on Claxton if they did somehow start him. On Toronto's side, I really I love these guys, even if those guys are out, even if those guys are in. And if they're in, Fred VanVleet on FanDuel at 7,500, let's roll. I'm in on that one 100%. Like, I'm not 100%, but I'm totally in on that play. I'm going to go through my plays again, and we'll get into questions, and Sheets will be here at 6 Eastern. But I really think you want to play these guys anyway. And if you guys think it's chasing with Scotty Barnes, I'm just telling you, this kid's scratching the surface. He's not going to go 12 for 14 from the floor. He's not going to have 5 steals in a block, probably. That actually is possible, but I don't think he will. He's 5,500 and he's 6K. If those guys, if anybody's out, I just love Barnes. I think Siakam is still my favorite play. I don't care that he had a down game last night. They were up by so much. I didn't really need him to do anything, but he was 2 for 14 from the floor. That's not going to happen too often. He still had 6 assists. And he didn't get his full run because of obviously the massive blowout. Gary Trent would also be a great play if VanVleet's out, and a fine play if VanVleet's in, but not as strong a play, obviously. The Clippers, here's a weird one for you that's going to be unowned. How about Zubac? They've played this team twice in the last month, and the last 2 weeks, Zubac put up 30 in 22 minutes in an absolute, like, what was it, a 40-something point game? Hartenstein put up like 46 or something in the same game. I love Zubac here. I think that no one's going to play him, and I will be one of the people who will be playing him. I really think. I mean, he put up 50 against them the last time they played, which was, let me check, 2 days ago. And by the way, he put up 50 with taking 5 shots. I know he's not going to have 6 blocks and steals, but this matchup leads to blocks and steals. You have a sloppy Houston team that will attack the paint, and I just think Zubac is a really good off the board play. I sort of am mixing in all these Clippers, Covington, Coffee, a little bit of Coffee, not much Coffee, Covington, Morris, Kennard, Jackson, a little bit, not a ton. And Batum. I think Batum is getting under-owned as well. There's a lot of guys, but again, they're going to play the hot hand thing. Ty Lue's done an incredible job getting the Clippers to where they are right now without Kawhi and Paul George, and I think that he will continue to ride hot hands. So all the minutes have up and downside for every player on that lineup. So just beware of that. But at the same time, we can probably expose that a little bit with guys like Batum if things are going right, or Kennard, who could end up with 34 minutes, and he could end up with 17 minutes. It's just, you don't know what Ty Lue is going to do, and it sucks for DFS. But you know what? We can speculate on this stuff. Houston, we're going to have to wait to see what happens with Porter and Garrison Matthews. I would have some interest in maybe an Eric Gordon play. I think he's going to play enough minutes at 0 ownership. I kind of like that idea. I have a little bit of interest in Christian Wood on FanDuel. Actually, I have a lot of interest in Christian Wood on FanDuel. I have a little bit of interest in him on DraftKings. And guys like Tate, probably going to fall by the wayside for me tonight, just depending on whether or not Matthews and Kevin Porter Jr. do play. Golden State, Minnesota. I really like Kevin Looney tonight, and I never do. So take that for what you will. I just like the matchup too much. I don't really have an exact other big to match up directly if Bjelic is out. If Bjelic is in, I think he's a good long shot tournament play if we don't get that other value. And even still, maybe you could argue that there's a path for him to get there against his former team and maybe outscore Gafford in a little bit less minutes. Or maybe he gets hot and he gets the same run as Gafford, which is totally possible. Minnesota side, I love Edwards on FanDuel if he plays. I love him on DraftKings where he'll be unowned. I love Russell. I mean, Edwards has put up 49. I mentioned this earlier in my 5 and 5. He's put up 49.5, 17. And the other one was, so he's a high and low guy. And then he put up 67 in the other game against this Warriors team. He loves the pace. I think it's a really good spot for him if he's in. If not, we're going to load up on. I actually like Beverly anyway. But even if all these guys are in, I like Beverly, Russell, and Towns. Towns being my least favorite of the 3, except for on FanDuel where he's 9,300. And you get the former team thing. You got the Wiggins play also on Golden State. He's 5,500 on FanDuel. I like that play. I actually like using him on a little bit on DraftKings as well. So I'll be doing some of that. And obviously, Luka's a very strong play. I think unless we get all the value that we're hoping to get, I may be fading Luka, except for I will have one series of lineups with Luka on DraftKings. On FanDuel, much harder to fade. I understand he turns the ball over a ton, so his price, and it correlates better to the DraftKings play. But this is basically a lot of the stuff I said earlier, because it's really not a whole lot different at the moment until we get some of this news. So I like Luka quite a bit. I think you can play Bullock because of the minutes on FanDuel if you need the savings. But again, you're kind of hoping that turns into someone else like Malachi Flynn or something like that if we do get that value and VanVleet's out. The other guys are sort of Brunson, okay. I just don't feel very strongly about any of them. I am going to play Westbrook at 6,600. He's been terrible. I understand. The Lakers have been terrible. I'm going to take that shot at 6,600, and I probably will throw him into a lineup or two on DK as well. So that's where I'm at with that one. And I do like LeBron. If we get the value we're hoping for, I think we can run the LeBron Luka lineup. So that's sort of a general outlook of going game by game. And I think that's sort of how you want to approach this slate is get that 30-minute delay because we need that Toronto news before we can really make any final decisions. OG is out. Okay, well, this is good. News is coming in already. FVV out. Okay, well, we're back to it, guys. We're going to play a lot of these Raptors. So we're going to stack that game up, and that's what I'm going to do anyway. I'm going to just hope that it stays close. Play a little bit of the Curry, a little bit. I lean Curry the most, but I don't mind Mills. And I don't mind. Who else don't I hate when my friends text me when I'm on air about serious things. Let's see how let me see how the lineup's going to shake out real quick because I didn't get that news quite yet. So I think that we're gonna. What is going on with my computer? I think we're gonna want to. Yeah, just absolutely attack that spot with Toronto, and I don't see any way around it. I think Flynn is a really tough fade. You might want to do it in a lineup or two to try to mix things up. But now it's going to make Luka just so crazy popular. And maybe you can find a build that doesn't include Luka. And maybe you can get your 50 and 60s from the 8 and 9K guys, 7,500 guys like the Minnesota guys. And rather than going all the way up to Luka, who is going to be mega chalk. LeBron won't be as owned, so I don't mind that as a run back. And obviously no one's going to play Westbrook on DK. He's even going to be probably lower owned than he should be on FanDuel. So I'm gonna that's what we're gonna do. So I appreciate the news out there, guys. Sorry, I was a little late on the news because I was trying to go through my plays. All right, is Olynyk worth a play on DK with no Bagley? I mean, I just think again, first game of the night. There's always upside for Olynyk because we know he's actually really good point per minute and he's got a lot of his tools in his bag. There is no way in the world I'm going to play Kelly Olynyk on this slate except for maybe in the lottery type of thing. I just don't see. Let's not get crazy in game log watch and go. He can put up those big games, but why are we going to do that in the first game of the night? To me, I don't know. I don't care whether he gets there or not. They've got 15 bodies basically in Detroit. I don't really want to do that. It's fine. It's a good matchup. If you want to do it, go ahead. I'm not going to personally. And by the way, I don't think he played a minute of the fourth quarter until that last play in the last game where he hit the buzzer beater. So just keep that in mind. So I'm not going to be doing that personally. And we're still waiting on sheets. I'm going to take a look. Luka and Steph DK lineup too far a reach. No, that's the standard. I think you're going to be looking at pretty mega chalk with those two, with this value that's going to open up from Toronto. So I don't have a lot of great insight for you. I think Steph is the guy who we always talk about how he's got a huge ceiling and everything. He almost never gets there for one reason or another. This is a good spot, though. I mean, but even in the last game against Dallas, he took 25 shots. You know what I mean? He scored He only made 11 of them. I mean, I guess he made 11 of 25, which is not bad. But he scored 27 points, had 10 assists, and still only had 53 fantasy points, 32% usage rate. Usage has been great without Clay. But I'm leaning more Wiggins on FanDuel, and I am going to have a little mixes of Steph. But I don't want to play this mega chalk when the guys basically never get there. It's a great matchup, that's for sure. But we've seen this so many times this year, and it's okay, yes, I will mix him in, especially because I like the Minnesota side. But I don't know, man. It does feel a little bit thin to me to just play a 35% owned Steph and a 50% owned Luka and just go, okay, well, let's see if my other guys are right. It's not my style of play. I'm going to have some exposure to it, but I do think it's going to be incredibly chalky. All right, Peyton Pritchard did not ever cross my mind today. And is there a reason why he should? I don't see Richard as. I think that would be one of maybe one of the worst possible plays you could make. I understand he had big games and he made a bunch of threes in the last couple games. There's a 0% chance that I'm playing Peyton Pritchard with the other value out there. I just have absolutely no need for it at all. I think that we're getting way too caught up in game log watching if you're going to start playing guys like that who are playing 15 minutes or 14 minutes. And I just have no interest in it myself. I don't care if they get there. This is the way you have to sort of treat these things. Like sometimes these guys are going to get there who I say are terrible plays. They're still terrible plays. Nothing changes about that. Guys can get hot. Every single guy in this league, everybody who's going to play a minute can get hot and go nuts. I don't see any reason to ever play a guy like Cam Pritchard here. I'm sorry, like Peyton Pritchard here. So Cam is in. Okay, explain the Westbrook talk. He's 6,600. The usage has been really, really good. He's been really inefficient, as has the team, by the way. I think he had 11 and a half that were missed assists that were over 50% shots, wide open shots that he was kicking it to. So that's not going to happen anymore. And he's 6,600. I'm going to play a guy with a ceiling at 6,600 pretty much all the time. I don't really care. And I love the recency bias. I just hope no one in the world does it, because I don't need to be right every day. I need to be right 1 out of 10 times that I play him. You're not going to win every day. You want to save it for when you can actually win a tournament. He's a guy who can win you a tournament. He can put up 50. I know we haven't seen it recently and all this and that. I don't care. I'm going to take that shot. That's my personal take. If you guys don't feel comfortable with it, absolutely don't mind if you don't, because there's tons of good guard plays on FanDuel. Again, I'm not going to play him in every lineup. I'm just playing a good portion of them. Malachi Flynn is basically a near lock. I'm not going to lock him in, but it's a very tough fade. LaMarcus Aldridge on FanDuel, fine. No strong take. I don't like LaMarcus on back-to-backs. If Drummond's out, we're going to have to really wait to see if Drummond's in or out, because that's going to determine this. So that's where I'm at. Dunbar, hey, buddy, I don't think that I just want to remind you, I do not think there's any way that Steph is going to be low owned on this slate. Like, there's just no chance in my mind that he's not going to be, unless we get a bunch of other guys out that maybe could change things. But right now I've got Steph projected at 25%. I think it's probably going to be closer to 30 on DraftKings. And I think on FanDuel, he's going to be even higher probably. You're playing chalk if you're doing that, but that's okay. You can find other ones. Drummond is out officially. Okay, so then we do like LaMarcus, assuming that he does start. I still would like to see a starting lineup from Brooklyn. I don't understand why it's not updating me. Come on. I love you guys, RG, but like, you guys have a great app that's supposed to update me on all this stuff, and it never works. I never get the updates anymore since I switched to a new phone. Very, very strange. Obviously, John Collins is out. I did get right as I say that, I finally get my first update from them in a while, and it's John Collins is out, which we kind of knew a week ago. All right. Let's see what Sheets has to say when he pops on in. What's up to K9 Bronco? What's up to Dunbar? I really appreciate all you guys being here. Let's see. We've got Nick Nelson, who we don't see as often. Good to see you. Sam Tustu. Like, everybody's in there. And I'm still feel like I'm going to just keep saying the same thing. Hammer Toronto. I know it's chalky. You don't need to play all of the guys in the same lineup. You can try to fade Scotty Barnes in some. He's going to be really popular. I probably will be playing a ton of Scotty Barnes. We're really just going to have to target in on that game, because you're going to see, if any of you guys are looking at projections or anything out there, if we get Sheets' updated projections, they're going to absolutely go nuts for Toronto. And I don't blame them. And I think this game stays a little closer. I think what you do is you turn it into a game stack, because people are going to forget about the other side, just like they did last night. Now, that last night it ended up working out for them because everybody sucked on Brooklyn and they lost by 40. But tonight, I'm guessing that they make it a little bit more competitive. And that's just where I stand right now. All right, let's take a look at some other thoughts here. Seth Curry versus Trent. Trent is the answer by a long shot. But if you're going to mix in some, I'm going to be mixing some Seth Curry with Scotty Barnes and Siakam and Flynn or something. You know what I mean? But I do like Curry as well. So I'm going to play some Curry and Trent. I like both of those guys personally. All right, guys, please give the like and the thumbs up and everything like that. Not really sure what the "you love your viewers more" thing means, but sure, I do love the viewers. What do I think about Trey? I think that it's a bad matchup. It's literally the nut low matchup, the worst possible matchup, but he's got a ceiling and you can use him as a pivot off of Steph. The problem I have is that I don't see him as being crazy low owned either, but I think he'll be lower owned significantly than Steph. So based on that, I think, yeah, you can go ahead and play Trey. I prefer Bogdanovich in that game if I'm playing a Hawk. I like Herter a little bit, but I am okay with the love. What's up, Sheets?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, so I'm just going through some of the plays, answer some questions. What's up to my man Rashad out there? Let's see. Any confidence in Precious? So we have Toronto all out, Sheets. What are you doing? What are you doing about this? We're gonna just hammer that game, right?
Who's out? I just got here.
Okay, so Van Vliet and Anunoby again. So basically, it's the same run back from Toronto last night. Russell versus Edwards. If I had to choose one on DK, we don't know if Edwards is playing. So there's your answer.
Well, Edwards is questionable.
So is Vanderbilt. There's a ton of questionables on these back-to-backs tonight. So we're gonna have to wait. Drummond's out. We're gonna have to run some new projections because there's a bunch of stuff that's happening, and it's gonna change the slate completely.
Wait, Andre Drummond is out.
Drummond's out. It's the back-to-back. I kind of thought it'd be Aldridge tonight, but it's Drummond. So that makes everybody on both sides just completely. That game is going to be very hard not to stack, even with the other guys you want to play in other games. You can do that and get a 5-man stack of that game really easily. But we have to wait. The Russell Edwards question is really tough to answer because we don't know if Edwards is playing. Assuming that he is playing, I sort of like both of them, and I'm just basically dividing them up right now. I kind of like. I mean, Edwards is a lot cheaper on FanDuel. But I think that there's an argument for playing him on DraftKings, and I think at lower ownership than Russell, he's really interesting.
Do we still like Gafford the best?
Probably not. Malachi Flynn is the best. Is going to be by far the best play on the slate.
Did this news just happen?
Yep.
Okay, no wonder.
We kind of expected it. You know what I mean? We talked about it earlier, and. Malachi Flynn was he played 33 minutes last night and they won by like 40. So if this game is remotely close, you might see 40 minutes out of Malachi Flynn tonight. And I would pay $6K for Malachi Flynn, probably. Maybe I'd play $5K for him. Maybe $6K is a little much. But Malachi Flynn along with Gafford are going to be just massive chalk. I think we can come away from some of the Gafford ownership, and I think it's probably the right thing to do. I'm still going to have a good chunk of him, but I don't think he's any sort of a lock or anything close to it. And
I still really like him. I mean, 7X is still 7X, right?
Why? I don't know why we believe that though. It's you're counting on a guy who's a good point per minute player being basically as good as anybody in the NBA point per minute wise. But not quite as good as anybody who's like a role player. They really do. They don't give him all the minutes. He put up 24 in his last game. If he puts up 24 again, I don't mind fading him for guys who maybe could do better. We could play. I'm going to have a good portion of them, but I'm just not going to. I think that he and Flynn are going to be in the Flynn will be 80% owned, maybe 90, and Gafford will probably in the big one. I'm not talking about $15 in the big buy-ins. That's what they'll be, single entries. You probably want to include both those guys, but they're going to be 90 and 70% owned probably, and just probably worth noting. I'm assuming that Toronto's not going to do anything different with their starting lineup, considering they won by 7 million points. And Sheets, once you get your projections updated, let us know what you're thinking here. Thad Young is
ridiculous. No, nothing. It's just really annoying. I literally just finished spending the last 15 minutes doing it, and then just the Toronto thing just came in. So.
I hate when that happens. I'm sorry, man. It sucks.
It's just annoying to me.
Yeah. I'm okay with Thaddeus Young. Absolutely. Nothing wrong with that. Precious is gonna probably be a little bit more popular, and I don't mind if you want to go with Thad. Again, we have the same matchup, and they don't need to play big exactly. I'll be mixing in some Boucher. I'll do exactly what I did last night because not every game is going to play out the exact same way. I'm going to play Malachi Flynn. I'm going to play Trent. I'm going to play Barnes. I'm going to play Siakam, and then I'm probably going to try to limit it to 3 of them unless I'm going to just play at least 2 nets, which is very possible. It just makes your lineup so chalky, and I'm just trying to find a way to get away from it. A little hard to get away from the chalk tonight because this is, it's like chalk if you don't have it, like with Flynn, to get like a guy who might put up like 15x. It's really hard to fade that. And I think 15x is like a legitimate possibility. This guy was in the mid 40s a bunch of games last year. I know they have more bodies now, but he could bust, but it's very unlikely for me.
Well, is this one of those things where they have a lot of guys, or is this one where they really just have to play him 35 minutes?
No, they always do. He played 33 minutes last night in the 40-point game. It's just Nick Nurse. He always does it. And it's hard to imagine. They have other bodies for sure. I don't see why, other than the second of a back-to-back, why they would treat it very strange. And also, it's like the second of a back-to-back, but it's at home, and all these guys didn't play their normal minutes last night.
Right.
Scotty Holmes played the most, 34. Trying to fade him is definitely an option you have, because I think that he's going to be really popular, and maybe he only gets 5x. Same thing with Gary Trent. As I mentioned yesterday, I think Gary Trent has a higher range of outcomes. He's very steal and shot making dependent. And this is a good matchup for both those things, but you're going to want exposure to all these guys. I probably will even get a little exposure to Birch just to get a little bit weird. Like you're going to have to find something weird in that game. And it's really hard not to want to play like 3 or, I think in cash, you could probably talk about like playing 4, maybe 4 Raptors potentially, but I'd probably go 3. Guys, please do the like and subscribe and all that stuff if you haven't already. We've got a question from X Factor, getting a lot of Marcus Morris in a good matchup. Any thoughts? I think it's fine. I'm not excited about it, but I think it's absolutely fine. I actually really, again, I'm going to reemphasize this Zubac thing. Zubac's point per minutes against this Houston team are absolutely out of control. Like, it's nuts. And they've done it twice in 2 weeks. Now, sure, that could be, say it's outlier, but like, I mean, he should be like, based on that, he should be projected to score 45 fantasy points tonight, if the game stays close at all. Dinwiddie is not an option that I ever thought once about today, and I'm going to double check to see if there's any reason why I would play Dinwiddie, and the answer is there is no reason. He put up one good game where he made every single shot. He was 10 for 14 from the fleet field, and he put up 38 fantasy points. Somebody else can have it. I have no interest in it personally. Just where I'm at.
What's the when you said that Edwards is questionable? Is there any more details on that, or just?
It's a leg thing, a knee thing.
Okay.
I think it's a knee thing. It's some sort of injury thing. I don't.
But it's a new designation.
He and Vanderbilt were midday.
Okay.
Which is going to open up a ton more. So again, it just reemphasizes maybe you don't play as much of the first game outside of some of the obvious Gafford play, some of maybe a little KCP, although I'm really losing interest in that. I don't mind Kuzma with the massive ceiling. I don't mind Cunningham, but I just don't want to play these guys in this first game until we know about Minnesota now. We at least we know about Toronto, which is great. And I was going to play Toronto, I was going to assume all that was going to be the case. Why would you bring these guys back after winning by 40 when they actually have real injuries? So they didn't. I'm going to get out in probably a few minutes, and Sheets is probably going to take over. I'm going to probably, I guess I just mute my microphone and turn my video off like we did before the show. Oh, you know what? I have to change the caption. I messed up on the caption here. Here we go. Let's change that one over. Thanks to Mark, great job. Appreciate you guys putting that stuff up for us so we can get people in here before, and they're always ready to go when we're rolling. So I don't think Looney versus Gafford. Those are not. Oh, you mean on FanDuel? That's got to be a FanDuel question. For me, it's Looney over Gafford on FanDuel at the same price, but on DraftKings, it's clearly Gafford. Patty Mills, yes, you do disregard. He looks terrible. I think they just overplayed him, but maybe like there's going to be a game where he gets there in a big way, and I think he's cheap enough to where you got to take that shot because you need Brooklyn to stay close, right? Like at least a little bit. Did Kevin Porter Jr. get announced out? Because I see the Schroeder question, but I only have interest in Schroeder if Kevin Porter Jr. is out. Let me just see real quick and make sure that I'm not speaking out of turn there. Yeah, I don't think Schroeder is very viable with all these games that he had. Games were without Kevin Porter Jr. He's okay anyway. He does a long shot play, but I haven't projected at like a 3x value, so I wouldn't be too high on that one. All right, Sheets, what do you got for us? Who's popping for you?
Yeah, so Malachi Flynn is the top guy right now for me. And then after that, though, it's still Gafford as far as value goes.
Yep.
And then James Johnson and Thaddeus Young, and then we're at KCP. But none of this is none of this is that great, you know. Like except for Flynn and Gafford, as far as the way I look at it.
Well, all of Toronto is great to me. I think they're a little higher price, but maybe not the you know. I don't mean it's like 10x plays, but I think they're all going to project to like 6 to 7x, right?
close, but not
quite.
Not quite. I don't have any of them over 6x, except for Thaddeus Young from Toronto. But
yeah,
if Mark's there, by the way, I mean, this is such torture. I'm uploading the newest DraftKings projections, and it's just getting stuck in Google Drive. So I don't know what to say. I'm so sick of this of the site. You want to know the truth?
I mean, we're gonna get it together. We got a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah.
Poole is fine. Tate is fine. They're guys who I'm not really playing tonight, to be honest with you. I don't mind either of them, but I don't particularly like either of them either. I just think that they're okay plays that could get there, but not really using like, I don't know. It's just a fine play to me. I think Tate is probably the better of those two plays. I think Poole is fine. I'm not getting to a bunch of them. I'm just sort of, maybe I'm a little too high on Wiggins, but I'm sort of on Wiggins here, and I want to fade a little bit of what I think is going to become very chalky Steph.
Steph Curry?
I think he's going to be popular, way more popular than the projections have him. On FanDuel, sorry. On DraftKings, he won't be as popular, but probably still 20%-ish. That's my guess. But I kind of like the Poole idea, actually. I think that it's a reasonable play. I think you could. The problem with these Warriors is sort of like they're like a better version of the Clippers. They're like the Clippers with Steph. They just have all these guys who could play minutes, and it's hard to know what to do with them because you don't really know who's going to get them outside of Steph, honestly. And those are really the only guys we know are going to play a ton of minutes. I do think Looney is a really strong play tonight, and I'll be including him. I think that's an interesting thing you could do to not play Gafford and play Looney instead on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I don't think you're going to be shocking anybody with that play, but I do sort of like Looney on DraftKings. He's not going to be low owned, but he'll be low and much lower than Gafford, obviously. Do I still like Dwight Howard? I think Dwight Howard is a phenomenal tournament play. I large field. I'm probably going to include a little bit of him, to be honest with you. And I don't think I'm going to be totally alone, but I think he can absolutely massacre this front line. He can go out there, especially with the way the Lakers shoot. He might get like 20 rebounds tonight. So I do like Dwight Howard. That's a really cool pivot, actually. And I think that he's going to be the lower owned of the bunch, but maybe you play like a Howard and Looney lineup, and then you're kind of cooking right there. I think that's kind of a cool way to approach it. I like the Howard idea. I think there's a huge downside where they might just go small and skip Howard. It's not like they've been playing well with him, but he's played well, but they haven't played well. With that said, I'm going to probably get out of here to build my lineup. So we wanted to do this a little earlier. So I'm glad we were able to get some time in, guys. If there's any questions I didn't address, please do it in the next 2 minutes and I will answer them, and Sheets will answer them if not. How's the upload going?
It's I think I'm gonna just log off.
Okay. She's just like, I'm just quitting DFS forever.
I'm just done, dude. All right, I'll see you guys later.
You're out of here? Oh, okay. Well, that was surprising. All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much what I got for you today. I'm sorry. Yeah, I will be in Discord for the rest of the time. So you guys have any questions, pop on in there. But again, you want to stack that Toronto-Brooklyn game, in my opinion, and you want to try to take shots on the Dwight Howards as your low-owned play on the the guys who aren't crazy low-owned, but I really like the Edwards, who will be low-owned if he does play. But Russell, Edwards, Cat. I like the Golden State Minnesota game quite a bit. It's interesting that Golden State's favored by 3, and they've lost 5 straight in Minnesota. And I actually like them to win tonight, but it does feel a little bit of it's an interesting matchup anyway. All right, guys. Well, we really appreciate you. Siakam's an awesome player. By the way, he shot badly last night, but they won by 40. You got to just throw those games out for some of these guys. If you win by 35 or 40, it's like, just forget about it, move on to the next one. And if people are going to be afraid to play Siakam, that's when you load up Siakam. He's actually probably the best play on FanDuel anyway. He and Scotty Barnes are really close, I'd say, on FanDuel. She's just AB'd out. That's right, Ryan. Like, he literally pulled the Antonio Brown. No, I know, buddy. It's 2 for 14. Yeah, he didn't play well, but like, again, they just were up by 1 million. So it's like, who cares if he shot the ball poorly? That's shooting his variance. We're going to have to embrace it. Anthony Edwards is the best example of that. That's why I love playing that guy. KPJ is out. Wow, Jesus Christ. Okay, back to Schroeder. I do like Schroeder some. I think Gordon and Jalen Green are viable, but not exciting. I think Okongwu is another one of those really funky, weird plays that could work out. Dwight Howard mold, I guess you'd say. I like the idea of Project Mayhem, but I would keep it for like small buy-in, large field stuff mostly. I don't think I would do it in a big buy-in with the other stuff we have out there. The Brooklyn Center minutes are, we need to know who's starting for them, first of all, and that's something we don't have yet. But you'd assume that it would be a combination of Aldridge, James Johnson. My guess is they'll mix things up a little bit. You might see like Day'Ron Sharpe in there. You might see Nick Claxton in there. And I think those are the guys we might want to play if they're starting. So main thing for now, don't get too over crazy in the first game. Get some pieces that we mentioned already, but don't go crazy with it. All right, guys. And Schroeder or Pat Bev? It's a good question. They're different prices by quite a bit, I think. Unless I'm on FanDuel, I'm missing something. Maybe on FanDuel they're closer in price. Straight up, I would take Schroeder. Not straight up, I would take Pat Bev. Assuming Schroeder starts, of course. Pretty close, though, between those two. All right, guys, good luck to everybody out there. We're going to end this one at about an hour here, or 50 minutes. And we appreciate you all. Don't forget to like before you get out of here. And we will see you guys hopefully at the top of the leaderboards. And if not,